Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So I thought that I would go for a modern Doctor. Also go for an author that we've not done a novel of before. Though an author who has had a few books released in Doctor Who. We are going to be experiencing The Blood Cell by James Goss. So it means we're going to be spending time with the 12th Doctor and Clara.
Our first Clara story. It's taken us a while to get there.
It has taken us a while, yes.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well. Happy September, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's okay. It's suddenly kind of, we've got a bit of an autumnal chill in the air, which is, I guess, nice. I don't know.
Lots of pollen, too, so if I start sneezing, it's not COVID-related.
Okay, fair enough. I shall bear that in mind. But yeah. Yesterday I went to my first live in-person sports event, which was kind of strange after like 5 months of not being able to do anything remotely like that.
I'm guessing it was football.
It was football, yes, it was football. Wearing a mask and kind of keeping my distance. Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Gives it a little bit of an extra thrill.
Yes, it does. But also, because not everyone else is wearing masks, and you're kind of going, okay, right, I'm just going to go to this deserted part of the stadium.
I'll sit over here.
Yes, I'll just sit over here, and I'll just kind of keep away from everybody else. Yeah, what fun.
But hey, at least you are able to have in-person sporting events. That's
Yes, which I appreciate is not the case in large amounts of the world. So yeah, who knows if this gets taken away again. So let's just
enjoy it while you can.
Yes,
right?
enjoy it while you can. Yes.
We have some exciting news to share in the Doctor Who book world. The Time Lord Victorious kind of roadmap has been unveiled, and it's quite extensive.
Yep.
There's something like 25 different things coming out over the next 4 months or so related to it. For our purposes, the big pieces are the 2 books, The Night, the Fool, and the Dead, and the All Flesh is Grass, which are the 2 book-related items.
Yeah, they're great titles as well. I was going to say they're evocative, and obviously it doesn't give you a clue as to what they're about, but their titles are you're going to go, oh, yeah, they're eye-catching. So they might be quotes. They may be quotes from something I don't recognize. But
I've heard a few rumors about like what the overall storyline is kind of in a general sense, and I think it involves the 10th Doctor traveling to an alternate universe where the Time War never happened, is kind of the premise for the whole series.
Okay, sounds interesting.
And as kind of tying into our book for this month, the supervising producer on it is James Goss, who is our author for the month.
Yeah.
A couple of other quick news tidbits. Panini and Doctor Who Magazine are continuing their reprints of graphic novels. So The Mistress of Chaos, which is the first 13th Doctor compilation of comic strips, is finally on its way to printers, and that's going to be on sale on October 5th next month. And the next graphic novel after that has also been announced. It'll be The Age of Chaos, reprinting Colin Baker's comic from the early 90s, as well as some tales involving the 3rd, 4th, and 7th Doctors, and that'll be due out sometime next year. And I'm thinking that the other stories in that will be the 2 remaining yearbook comics that haven't been collected yet, Under Pressure with the 3rd, 4th, and 7th Doctors, and Metamorphosis with the 7th Doctor, but those haven't been announced yet.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I remember Under Pressure. I remember quite enjoying Under Pressure, but I have no recollection of Metamorphoses. But
Have you read The Age of Chaos?
No, I
haven't read that one either.
No. Yeah, it was, for some reason, I found it very hard to get hold of. But yeah, hey-ho.
One other news piece, there's a new free PDF that's been released called Blackpool Remembered, and it's written by John Collier, and it's a free download. It's a PDF. It's quite a large file size. It's over 75 megabytes. It's got a lot of photographs in it, but it's over 400 pages long.
Wow.
And it features contributions from Edward Russell, David Richardson, Katie Manning, Mike Tucker, Steve Cole. And it's really cool. It kind of takes you through the entire Blackpool exhibition virtually, kind of step by step. Just an exhaustive work. And I really hope it inspires fans to create something similar, chronicling the Doctor Who exhibition in Cardiff that was open for over a decade. And I know that because that's changed quite a bit over the years too, before it closed down. So really cool nostalgia for those who went to it back in the day. Did you ever?
No, I never went to the one in Blackpool. I did go to, there was one that was moderately short-lived in, I want to say it was in Kensington Olympia. It was certainly in that general area about 10 years or so ago. But, yeah, which was good. I have been to Blackpool, but not to the Doctor Who exhibition.
Well, by downloading this guide, you can
virtually go there myself, yes.
The closest to, I think the only step beyond would be like recreating it in like virtual 3D or something.
Yeah.
It's very exhaustive, but
cool.
Yeah, check that out.
Cool.
Let's move on to show and tell then.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what do you have for us this month?
What do I have? So I've got a Doctor Who computer game, but possibly not the one that you're expecting. I've got Nightfall. I say Doctor Who computer game. It's a computer game that has been released by CBBC, and it's downloadable in the UK on most phone device systems. And until Tuesday, 29th of September, it's got a Doctor Who level featuring the 13th Doctor and Daleks, and also TARDIS. And it's supposed to be a collaborative game, and it's also supposed to be kind of child-friendly, so you can send messages to other players, but it's very limited to sort of like saying, help me, or let's work together. And there's no ads in it, so it's designed to be a game that, as a parent, you could give a kid, and they won't accidentally rack up a huge bill for you. And the basic premise is that you help other people deal with the people's worries as they enter their dream world. I thought, well, 2020 is a good year to do that, because I think there's a lot of worries, a lot of nightmares out there. And so you're kind of catching various nightmares and things, and some of those are Dalek shaped. And yeah, it's good fun. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's the best game I've ever played. However, for the princely sum of £0 and 0 pence, I think it's great, and I think it's a good idea as well. Because like, it lets me kind of think, is this something that the BBC should be doing? But I kind of think I think possibly on reflection it is, because it would need to be someone like the BBC to provide something like this, and I think it is important, especially now, that kids can have some form of distraction that is free. And I think, yeah.
That sounds really interesting. And I agree. I think probably it's better that like a government-sponsored organization is putting this out rather than like a private corporation. So
Yeah. And it's done in this kind of like isometric style, and it's quite interesting from a graphics point of view. So it's this kind of scrolling adventure. So it feels very late 80s, but slightly better graphics, but it's that general look and feel. So for me, it produces a nice warm glow of nostalgia. But I don't find it as addictive as I do 13, so that's probably a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, speaking of free-to-play computer games.
Yes, that's the other Doctor Who computer game. Yes. Yeah. Have you played the master version of 13?
No, I haven't. I got so frustrated at the Doctor version that I could only get to like the 8th or 9th Doctor. I could never get beyond that.
Yeah,
so.
I've only got to Tennant, and usually when I get to Tennant, I'm like, Chris, you probably ought to be doing other things with your life right now. So, yeah.
Fun.
How about you? What have you got?
So I've been treating myself and picking up a few of the more recent character options action figure collections, or action dollies, as some might say. I've got 3 sets recently. So I got the Companions of the Fourth Doctor set, which features Sarah Jane Smith in her military fatigues, I think from, is it Revenge of the Cybermen?
I think so, yes.
And then also the first and second Romanas, which is really cool. And then got the FAM from series 11 and 12, finally. So the 13th Doctor isn't quite as lonely on the shelf there. And with an extra Jadoon thrown in, because I think they had too many Jadoon still sitting around from... Series 3. And then I also got the 8th Doctor in his Paul McGann created costume of kind of that royal blue leather pea coat and jeans that he debuted, I think, at a convention in New Zealand. It also comes with the blue and silver Dalek Interrogator Prime from a Big Finish audio story called In the Garden of Death, which is from the second 8th Doctor Time War set. So lots of new bits of plastic.
Cool.
On the shelf, but yeah, excited to get those. And it's always more difficult to collect those, I think, being in the US, because you have to import them for the most part. They're just not super widely available here.
Do you have to pay tax when they arrive as well, or
no? Fortunately, we don't have we don't have
that system. Yes,
yeah.
That we do. Yes,
no, it just post office drops them off.
Yeah, it's always great when you order things from outside of the UK and you kind of like, okay, am I going to get hit by a tax bill when this arrives or not? And yeah.
And we also benefit too, I think, from, like, if I order something from Amazon UK, they take the VAT out, the VAT taxes. So whatever's in your cart, it drops by like another £5 or so. So
cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's good.
So this month, we're reading The Blood Cell by James Goss. And this is a 12th Doctor and Clara story. Do we want to talk about James Goss a little bit?
Yeah, let's. I think James Goss is one of the people that we have to thank for all the Doctor Who animations. He commissioned the animation for episodes 1 and 4 of The Invasion, though at the time that was going to be a website-only thing. And then people went, you know what, this works. Let's stick this on the DVD. And thus a small industry was born.
I think he first got his start with the animation and commissioning the Scream of the Shalka for the website, because he was, for several years, I want to say like since 2000 to like maybe 2007 or 2008, he was the main content producer and web editor for the Doctor Who website back when it was part of the BBC's kind of cult TV sites. And I was first introduced to him in this, I think it's in the Scream of the Shalka DVD. There's a quite extensive documentary that he features in, just kind of going through all the different things that happened as a result of the website, you know, like the short stories that were commissioned and hosted on there and some of the animations and stuff. But since then, he's had such a really prolific career in the Doctor Who spin-off world. He's written just a ton of different Big Finish audios, including one of the stories when David Tennant returned as the 10th Doctor. And he's also written Torchwood and Class spin-offs and
the War Master, and it's just every series.
He did write a bunch of audio exclusive books, and then he did Summer Falls and Other Stories, which was an anthology, but I think this is his first like full-length Doctor Who novel.
Dead of Winter might beat it. Is that an actual...
That's an audio series.
Is it?
No,
it's a
you're
book,
right. You're right. Yeah,
it's a physical book.
It's a physical book. Okay. So this wasn't his first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which features the 11th Doctor, Amy Pond and Rory.
When you said Dead of Winter, I was thinking the Winter quadrilogy.
Okay. Yeah.
He may have had a hand in some of those stories.
But certainly, I mean, we've not done him before. I just see that Dead of Winter, the main enemy of that is someone called Prince Boris. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not going to make any reference to anybody that could be Boris or a villain at the moment.
He's also adapted 3 different Douglas Adams works. So
yes,
City of Death, The Pirate Planet, and then Doctor Who and the Cricket Men.
Yeah.
And I think it's fairly well known within fandom that he was based on Tom Baker's outline. He also wrote Scratch Man.
Yeah. Tom Baker was going around all the studios in publicity for that. Give you the impression that he might have written it all himself, but yes.
And of course, most recently, the supervising producer on the Time Lord Victorious, as we mentioned.
He also, as well, wrote, or at least was heavily involved in Doctors Assemble, the Doctor Who lockdown piece with various kind of sound-like actors playing doctors.
Oh, cool.
So there's all manner of work, even though we've not done a book of his before. There's a lot of output.
And so the Blood Cell, this was first published in September of 2014, contemporaneously with early Series 8 first airing. And the book is dedicated to Paul Spragg, who had passed away and was instrumental with Big Finish, and especially with kind of their fan outreach. And this book has 14 untitled chapters.
Yeah.
And the book is told in the first person from the perspective of, we'll get to that.
Yes, we'll get to that. Yes. Right, shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Right, so we start off in we're in a prison on an asteroid in deep space. So let's just explain a little bit about the setup. So the prison is run by humans, and they're all given the title of Guardians. And with assistance from these faceless robots called the Custodians, who they're a little bit like the Crotons, aren't they? Possibly.
Yeah.
A mixture between kind of Crotons and possibly caretaker machines, or the cleaners, pardon me, from Paradise Towers. And so this asteroid is a long way away from this particular humanish civilization's base operations, which is known somewhat unimaginatively as Homeworld. So we experience the narrative from the point of view of the prison governor. So that's a very clumsy way of saying it's narrated by the prison governor. And we never find out the governor's name. Nor do we really get much of a clue as to his appearance. And I think we are told it's a he. I think. Actually, are we even told that?
That's a good question. I assumed it was, but yeah, perhaps not.
Yeah. I tried to remember whether there's any references to Boyhood, but yeah. So I think we'll refer to him as the governor. But yes. So the governor is being accompanied by one of the Guardians, a woman called Bentley, and they're in the governor's office where they're being visited by a prisoner who's prisoner 428. And sort of all the prisoners are given numbers in a kind of like a Les Miserables kind of way. And the prisoner is keen for the governor to read his papers, which the governor promptly burns without reading. And prisoner 428 is trying to get the governor to call him by his name. And the governor refuses this, as names are forbidden for prisoners. And of course, prisoner 428 is the Doctor. Apparently the Doctor's been trying to escape his cell just so that he could meet the governor and warn him that unless prison authorities start listening, many people are going to die. So, an attention-grabbing way to start.
And we're not on Shada, so...
Yes.
Nor is the 13th Doctor in another cell, but...
Yeah.
The setup definitely reminds me of the forthcoming Revolution of the Daleks, but then also a little bit of the 8th Doctor book we've read, Seeing Eye, where you have the Doctor in prison setup. But it hasn't been used very often in the series. So
you referenced the 13th Doctor. Reminds me, have you read Paul Mars's short story that he published? I think it was, well, certainly since you and I last recorded.
I don't think I have, no.
Okay, so it is from the 13th Doctor's point of view as she's in the prison cell.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, and he captures her voice brilliantly. So yeah, that's worth seeking out.
Oh,
So,
I'll
anyway.
have to check that out. The other thing I would mention too is that this prison, in terms of its setup, it has 7 different levels, and the Doctor's sonic screwdriver is destroyed along with his papers.
Yeah.
In the opening there. And the prisoner numbers are assigned based on intake. So the Doctor's prisoner number 428, and there are 427 other prisoners before him. So it's kind of a all-inclusive set there. And in terms of like number of Guardians, I think it's like 1 Guardian for every, was it 20 or 30 prisoners? I forget the breakdown, but
it was something like I think it is explicitly said, and I can't remember, but it's not a 1-to-1 basis, but Yeah.
So then Bentley, who's like the governor's right-hand woman or lieutenant sort of, they are talking about the prisoner, and the governor thinks that the doctor won't last very long in the prison, but makes it clear to Bentley that this isn't an instruction for him to have an accident. So you have kind of this tension where the governor's not always, he's not the best warden out there, and occasionally the prisoners will get accidents, or the custodians will be extra rough and like break their bones or something, and you have a lot of the prison staff looking the other way for a lot of that.
Yeah, the governor isn't entirely in charge. I think you get that as a vibe very early on.
And the governor typically doesn't look at all of the inmates' records, but for the doctor, he makes an exception and realizes that the doctor's offenses are truly awful. And we're not told what those are, but something very horrific that just kind of churns his stomach. So like a serial killer or, something along those lines. The governor is a little bit kind of afraid or cautious around the doctor based on what the documents accuse him of having done in the past. While the governor and Bentley are talking about the doctor, an alarm goes off signaling a system failure. And this is one of several system failures that they've been experiencing over the past few weeks and months. And they know that they only have 7 minutes to correct it. Otherwise, they're going to have to start making difficult decisions as to which parts of the prison get shut down in terms of life support. There's a whole section about how I want to mention, too, that even though this seems like a very kind of bleak setup, there are plenty of moments that are, I don't want to say lighthearted, but kind of bring a little bit of balance to the narrative. And one of those is kind of this lengthy aside about how the prison was built and how contractors got subcontractors involved, and it's really shoddy. But the prison systems reset themselves, and shortly afterwards, there's a person on level 7 who's known as the Oracle, who the governor thinks is just doesn't necessarily have like psychic powers, but the Oracle kind of makes premonitions of things. And after the system's failure, the Oracle calls in, and I was visualizing, what's his name, Dorian Maldivar. Almost for the Oracle, just in terms of like in my head, he seems kind of similar to that character a little bit in personality. But he says the Oracle says, "I told you so," and he warns that there's going to be more purple or mauve times ahead, which is a reference or callback to, I think, was it The Doctor Dances or The Empty Child, where the Ninth Doctor mentions that for most of the galaxy, red alert is mauve alert in terms of emergencies.
Yeah, it could well have been. Yeah, I must say I didn't pick up on that as a reference, but I find it interesting because the Oracle sees various different colours for different situations in his premonitions. It's kind of like almost like this. Is it symphesia? Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Which it was interesting because one of the things that this book does relatively well, I think, is kind of like constructing this world, and it does feel, even fairly early on, you're kind of getting a sense of all the various decisions that have gone into like the making of the prison, and you kind of feel that there's a realness about it. I found,
there's a strong world building where you get details like that kind of highlight the stark contrast between the prisoners and the guardians. Like the prisoners have no furniture, except for their beds. They have to stand. There's no sitting allowed. The only colors they see are orange of their like jumpsuits and like the gray walls. And then you contrast that with details like the governor's chair having like 36 adjustable comfort pockets. In terms of like comfort level versus just how bad the conditions are for the prisoners.
Yeah. So, a girl arrives on the landing pad of the prison asteroid, even though prisoners aren't allowed visitors. And the governor finds it curious that the asteroid's defense array hasn't detected this girl's shuttle. And also, she seems to be dressed as what he describes as a vintager, because she's wearing an old-fashioned sweater. So he comes out to greet her by the electric fence, which is something that he does for all first-time visitors. And it's not something he has to do, but he does it out of the goodness of his heart, basically to inform visitors of the futility of requesting a visit. And the girl tells him that her name is Clara. You were expecting that, weren't you, dear listener? And she warns the governor that she'll keep on coming back to get the Doctor released, as otherwise lots of people are going to die.
A recurring theme.
Yes, a recurring theme.
And the Vintager line was funny. Just you mentioned like he hasn't seen any of those since Old New Earth. So this seems like it's set like in that New Earth time frame, or there's at least some references to humanity having left Earth and have populated across the galaxy, and that's why I think you get references to like Homeworld as opposed to
Earth.
Yeah. Can we talk about Clara for a second? So her first appearance here was like, wow, this version that he's talking about, Clara's like very centered, calm, almost has this icy demeanor. And I was like, oh, this Clara's really intriguing. And it's later explained why she's presented like that in this first encounter here in the book. But my initial impression when I was reading through that chapter, because this was the first time that we have encountered Clara, both in this book and on the podcast. But I was thinking to myself, oh, I like this book version of Clara better than the TV show version. But that's explained away later.
To be honest, I didn't feel that she was that, in that first appearance, I didn't feel she was that different from what I saw on TV, but I think I enjoyed her sort of more than you did. Certainly I enjoyed the Capaldi version of Clara more than I did the Matt Smith version as well.
For me, it seemed like it was a subtle difference, but she felt in her first appearance more like Series 9 Clara, kind of that ultra smooth, overconfident, collected, I know what's going to happen, even though if I don't necessarily really know. Whereas, I was thinking, okay, this is early Series 8, so she's in her dashing from going out with Danny to visiting the doctor to her job and that kind of chaotic. So that didn't quite match up for me, but then the narrative explains later why that...
Yeah. I mean, I think for me as well, because we're being thrown into the middle of whatever it is that's happening with the Doctor and Clara, it gave me a sense that this has been happening for a long time, and so that's why she's kind of just used to this. So, yeah.
So these system outages keep happening on the asteroid, and there's also really kind of faulty communications between the asteroid and the homeworld. There's problems with their communication network, having to do with like the contractors and subcontractors.
It feels so real, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, having watched all of Orange is the New Black, I kind of think, yeah. this feels of a piece, which is amazing given this book was published in 2014, and I can't remember whether Orange is the New Black would have started by then. I mean, obviously the book, The Orange is the New Black, had been published, and also there are various other pieces explaining all the various issues with the prison system, but it didn't seem as so much a part of our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is where our dramatic reading comes in for the month. So this is a short clip from the audiobook version, which is read by Colin McFarlane, who's appeared in Doctor Who a couple of times.
He's in Voyage of the Damned, plays the Heavenly Host, or the voice of the Heavenly Host, and he plays Moran in Under the Lake and Before the Flood.
Yeah, and it's a scene where the governor discovers that the Doctor has escaped his cell for the first time. So let's have a listen.
I next encountered prisoner 428 on the viewing deck. Unless you stand on the landing pad, it's the only bit of the prison that offers a view of the stars. It was late at night, and I was out there alone. I often came to the viewing deck on my own to remember the past. I always came there without a custodian. And I felt a momentary panic when I saw 428 standing there. I clicked my fingers, and a custodian emerged from the walls, gliding up to me, hovering and ticking as it awaited instructions. "Prisoner 428, I called. Explain yourself. What are you doing here?" "Looking at the stars." 428 didn't turn. "For a start, prisoners are not allowed to look at the stars." "Seems rather cruel," said 428. He still hadn't turned. "It is done for your own benefit. Psychocriminologists adjudge that the sight would merely decrease prisoner morale." "That's so?" 428 turned to me. His face was framed by the stars spinning slowly behind us, and for a moment I thought how oddly right that looked. "You're Psychocriminologists sound a pretty idiotic bunch. I couldn't disagree with him, so I moved on to point 2. Point 2. Prisoners are not allowed in this area of the prison. Ah, 428 clucked. Well, I'll make a note of that and avoid it in future. Point 3. Prisoners are asleep at this time. I don't really sleep. Point 4. Prisoners are locked in their cells at this time. Oopsie. 428 made a comical face of regret. What can I say, other than that my cell door just kind of fell open? They do that around me, it's magic. Was he laughing at me? I'm like the man who bends spoons. Only you choose to sit next to me on a bus. You have broken 4 rules. I stopped and realized I didn't sound at all angry. It was as though I'd forgotten all about who prisoner 428 really was and what he'd done. I started again, shouting this time. Listen to me, 428. You have broken 5 different rules of the prison. If you include not addressing me by my proper title. Well, yes, so you've said, sir. 428 nodded, a little bored. Tell you what, I'll just wander back to my cell, shall I, and try and get some shut-eye. He turned on his heel and started to walk away, then stopped. If you don't mind me saying so, I think you could do with some rest too. You're looking a little pasty. 428! You will address me as sir, I thundered. 428 just turned and walked steadily away, waving a hand at me distractedly. Get some sleep, sir. You're going to need it, he said, and was gone. I stood there for a moment, shaking with rage. The custodian beeped, wanting to know if I wished it to follow 428 and restrain him. I shook my head. Well, let him have his little victory.
And so that was a short clip from the audiobook of The Blood Cell, read by Colin McFarlane, and that's available on iTunes, Audible, and wherever you can find audio books.
Yep. Probably in libraries as well in the UK.
Yep.
So, yes.
So do have a listen.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool scene where, you have the doctor kind of framed by, the starscape, and I think the governor's realizing that he doesn't have an ordinary prisoner on his hand here. So the doctor's pretty, as we heard, is quite dismissive of the governor and returns to his cell on his own accord. Mm-hmm. And later on at mealtime, the doctor's invited by another prisoner known as Lafcadio to see the prison library. And the doctor's initially very disappointed at the library's stock, but then not long later he changes his mind, and he passes on reading Moll Flanders and borrows a Garfield book instead. And we learn that the homeworld was going to set up like an ebook arrangement for the prisoners to get books, but that caused a media outcry because the prisoners would have to pay for their books, and that was dropped. And I think that was impacted too by like the lack of communications as well, because the prisoners are supposed to be able to have like the equivalent of Zoom or Skype calls with their loved ones, and they're not able to have any communication whatsoever. Yeah,
because they're basically sending the equivalent of telexes, aren't they? back to homeworld.
Yeah, really short messages.
Yeah.
So then Guardian Bentley says to the governor that the doctor's seems like he needs a friend. So the governor summons the doctor to his office, and he makes a deal with the doctor that if the doctor stays in his cell for 3 days without escaping, they'll install tables and chairs in the canteen.
So on the third night of those 3 days, a fire starts in the library, which rather wonderfully starts spreading in Dewey Decimal Order. It's very neat of it. So the doctor appears at the library, despite that bribe about table and chairs for good behaviour. And he goes into the blaze and activates a safety mechanism that ejects all of the books into space. And he emerges with his face kind of like blackened with soot. And he's carrying the unconscious body of Lafcadio, the librarian. And when Lafcadio comes around, the doctor tells him about the loss of the books, and also says that he reckons that someone's trying to send the doctor a message. The Doctor is then sent to solitary confinement for breaking out of his cell. And Clara comes back on a return visit with a whole series of protest signs that have been designed by Class 2B, including somebody with a sign saying "Free Doc Cotton," which is it's an EastEnders reference, but it was quite amusing. And the governor comes out for a chat, but is not very forthcoming. And she does give him some material for him to read, but it's not clear how much of that is going to kind of survive this kind of like censorship filtering system that the prison uses to protect the staff. And not long after, another alarm sounds, this time nearly lasting 7 minutes. And remember, 7 minutes is the critical time. And when the alarm finishes, the Doctor is discovered by the corpse of another Guardian, a woman called Donaldson. And the Doctor breaks out of solitary to visit her corpse in the Chapel of Rest, much to the Governor's surprise. Then Clara returns with a sign saying to free the Doctor or the killing will start. And the Governor tells her that the killing has already started. So, there's this brilliant sense of atmosphere, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And the setup with the whole library thing, it's very strongly implied that the guards set fire to the library in order to prompt the Doctor to break his promise about not escaping.
Yeah.
It's kind of like something to instigate a response from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think James Goss he's not holding back, is he?
Yeah. So then the Oracle, who's in charge of level 7, warns the Governor that soon he's going to need to decide what to do with his floor. And we soon understand what that warning means when during another alarm where you have like those critical system failures, the Governor considers as an option ejecting the entire level 7 from the asteroid, which apparently that's the only level that that he can do that for. The other 6 levels are kind of all stuck as part of the building in the side of the asteroid. And with 15 seconds remaining, the alarm stops, so he doesn't have to eject the level. The Doctor's cell is on level 3, and the prison authorities notice that on level 6, all of the prison cells are open, and the Doctor has disappeared. So the Governor heads to that level to investigate, and he finds all the cells abandoned, and all the prisoners and custodians nowhere to be seen. And investigating a cell that's been cleared out, the Governor is discovered by the Doctor. And they decide to help each other, but discover that they've been locked inside the cell. And they can hear doors being opened in the distance as if something is searching the cells or is coming towards them. And the Doctor's a little bit reluctant to show the Governor how he's been unlocking the doors until something starts hammering on the door, causing like dents. So the Doctor shows that he has like a small electromagnetic device that he built almost out of like a spoon.
Yeah, it's a sonic spoon.
Yeah, created a sonic spoon, which is really cool because it ties back in both with him using a spoon in Robot of Sherwood, which James Goss probably had access to, or I don't know if he actually got to see it while he was writing it, or probably the script.
Well, everyone seems to have access to Robot.
That's true. Marcelo Camargo made sure of that. But it works both as like a callback to that story, but also as kind of a unintentional call forward to, the 13th Doctor making a screwdriver out of melted spoons with Sheffield steel in her first story too.
It also makes me wonder why the 5th and 6th Doctors never got round to building their own sonic screwdriver.
Yeah. Or why Doctors 1 through 8 never bothered with psychic paper. That was saved of quite a few runarounds.
Yes.
Mid-episode. So the Governor is aware of the Doctor's sonic spoon now, and they don't see the assailant who's going down the corridor, but the Doctor kind of has a stare down with whatever that thing was, and we don't know if it's like a creature or what at this point. They emerge from the cell and they discover Mary Ann, who is a prisoner, and she was the first prisoner in the facility to try and escape. She's now in like a wheelchair, which is the result of like an old custodian that was converted into a chair for her. And Mary Ann's talking about how it's too cold and then is too hot because she, in her escape attempt, nearly froze to death on the landing pad. And the Governor says this chilling thing where he says, there were two places to hide on the landing pad outside of camera range. Unfortunately, Marianne chose the wrong one, where the ship's exhaust ports empty, so she was both nearly frozen and burned. And then she was also injured by this assailant. So they push her along in her wheelchair, and they search the rest of the floor and head to a lift, which the doctors managed to activate with his sonic spoon. And when they get back to the control room, the governor goes back on his word to work together with the doctor, and he reasserts himself and tells Bentley and the other guardians to arrest the doctor, and warns them about his contraband spoon that he built.
Yeah, the governor isn't helping himself here, is he? But also, though, the governor is behaving as a normal person would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of his decisions seem reasonable, and keep in mind too that the narrative's all from his perspective as well.
So the doctor later on is in an exercise cell, and he seems to be thinking out loud, though also is clearly aware that the governor's probably listening in. And then custodians enter the room, as there are these kind of like hatches in quite a few of the rooms from which custodians kind of enter, so they don't need to use the doors or anything. And these custodians start attacking the doctor, and the governor tries to get the control room to stop this, but the people in there aren't able to do so. And so he runs down to the exercise cell, and inside he finds some deactivated custodians, but no doctor. And it turns out that the doctor's been hiding in a custodian hatch in the cell. And then they head over to the control room, where another system alarm is sounding. And it's looking like the governor is going to need to jettison level 7. And so they basically FaceTime the Oracle. And the Oracle is curiously delighted at the prospect of level 7 being jettisoned, and that it would delight the children. It's really good. Okay, yeah, the Oracle's a bit crazy. And to the Doctor's horror, we learn that level 7 is where homeworld dissidents with families are kept.
So yeah, there are children there,
Yeah. And the release clamps for level 7 are malfunctioning, meaning that the level could rip in two if it proceeds any further. So the Doctor volunteers to go to the clamps to try something, with the very reluctant consent of the governor. And as he runs along, the Doctor yells at the guards watching remotely to get as many prisoners as possible onto level 7, and thus to treat it as kind of like a life raft. And once at the clamps, the Doctor starts using a blowtorch that he's stolen along the way. And he's also got this trolley full of various useful goodies that he's nicked. And in the meantime, the Oracle is starting up the level's engines. And the engine's known as the Baxter drive, which I reckon's got to be a tip of the hat to Stephen Baxter, I suspect, who we have previously read in the early days of this podcast.
That's right, the Wheel of Ice.
Yeah, so as the Doctor carries on working on the clamps, he's reminded of creme brulee, because he reckons it's going to get very hot very quickly, and tells the governor to discuss cooking with Clara next time she comes, because otherwise the conversation's going to be pretty glum. Which I think, yeah, because James Goss, I think, he captures the Doctor's wit and tone for this incarnation, I think, really well. Especially given that we are seeing this from the point of view of the narrator, but there is no mistaking that this is the 12th Doctor.
Yeah, the character comes through really strongly.
Yeah. So as the Doctor releases the final clamp, the monitor screen in the console room is filled with the blasts from the Baxter drives that takes off. So with mixed emotions, the governor watches level 7 break free, because knowing that this has almost certainly killed the Doctor. However, within seconds, the prison's defense array kicks in and blasts level 7 to smithereens. Like, whoa!
Yeah, it was an unexpected turn where you're like, well, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Because, I think they mentioned that there were 535 people on board level 7, so 300 people, so I think those would be like the families, and then 235 prisoners were also able to be evacuated. So, yeah, quite an astonishing, just like loss of life.
It reminds me of Delta and the Bannerman, and there's there's another season 24 story that this book overall reminds me of even more. But that said, it isn't as much of a sudden tonal shift as the loss of life in Delta and the Bannerman. because you know early on that this is not a light and cheerful romp.
What's the other story that it reminds you of?
Paradise Towers.
Oh, yeah, I can... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a prison block, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once Level 7 is destroyed by the defense array, the governor is promptly arrested by Guardian Bentley for the massacre of everyone on board, because the thought being that, he should have remembered to disable the defense array prior to them escaping, but everything happened so quickly. He thought that the grid was offline, but apparently it wasn't. So the governor is locked into a cell, and he starts preparing in his head his account of what happened, which shifts the blame to everyone else, including the doctor. And then his cell doors open up, revealing the doctor himself, who survived, much to the governor's surprise. So the doctor helps the governor to escape, and they head to the doctor's cell to hide, thinking that'll be the last place anyone would look for him, especially thinking that the doctor's dead. And the doctor explains that as he was melting the clamps to allow the level to fire off and escape, he had triggered a specific alarm that would jettison the loose contents of the room, meaning he was flung into nearby space before the Baxter drive kicked in. And then using another blowtorch tied to his anti-grav maintenance trolley, he was able to get back to the asteroid. And there's a very thin air shell around the asteroid as well. So he was able to breathe and such. And he broke back in through the Level 7 loading bay doors.
Yeah, it's very Fort of Doomsday, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of using the momentum. And yeah. So then the doctor, he's very curious as to what caused the defense array to activate and destroy Level 7. And they head back to the library. And we should mention, too, that in a kind of a victory for the doctor, he, because he had to jettison so many of the books into space due to the fire, the doctor had earlier taken all the library shelving down and had built tables and chairs for everyone in the canteen, after the governor kind of went back on his promise to do that. So they go back to the library, and Lefcardio, the prison librarian, is still there. And they notice that the air is starting to go stale due to oxygen being pumped, the oxygen pumps being down. So the governor and the doctor leave the library, and they hear a scream, and they return to discover Lefcardio's corpse, and he was killed somewhat violently. The doctor then starts hitting a mysterious assailant with a chair. So again, keep in mind we're seeing this all from the governor's perspective, and he doesn't have a good look at the assailant. But they manage to escape, and the doctor uses his sonic spoon to lock the attacker back in the library.
So Bentley and her guardians appear, armed to the teeth and threatening the doctor. And so the doctor decides to open the door and release whatever this assailant is. So this mysterious assailant is taller and wider than a man, and also it's covered in black tarpaulin, underneath which there's something glinting. It's like maybe armour of some sort. And it's also constantly moving, and the Guardian's guns are ineffective, and so the Doctor uses his sonic spoon to create a blast shield. And after a very terse exchange with the Guardians, the Governor and the Doctor leave to go and work on a theory, because in essence the Doctor reckons that the prison itself is attacking its occupants. And as the Governor is processing this, a line of custodians appear, advancing on the pair of them with pincers and blades. So this is very Paradise Towers. And the Doctor reaches into his pockets and removes a flamethrower and some metal filings. And he throws the filings towards the custodians and sort of lights them up, which causes the custodians to produce a defense shield. But because the custodians haven't recharged in a while, their battery dies, and so they all shut down. I was like, yeah, that's great.
And these are magnesium filings, so they're like they continue to burn once they settle on something, so that you have that chemical reaction going on in addition to the metal pieces activating the shields.
Yeah.
So then the Governor and the Doctor edge past the custodians, and they head to the launch pad. And Clara appears not long after on the visitor side of the fence, and she reveals that she was delayed because her and the TARDIS have been busy rescuing everyone on Level 7, taking them to a planet called Birdling. And the Doctor at first is kind of cross with her because he's saying, "Now, you didn't go back in time to rescue them, did you?" And she's like, "Oh no, it was all contemporaneously and done at the time, so it didn't violate any rules of time, and they were able to evacuate everyone into the TARDIS and land them on this colony planet safely." So then she and the Doctor catch up, and the defense array starts attacking Clara's side of the landing pad outside of the shielding. So she has to...
well, yeah, she's basically being attacked, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, from orbit. So she has to either make her way back to the TARDIS, and that path is blocked, and what she ends up doing is she enters the prison. So the governor finds a way to lower the defensive screens, so she's able to get in there and reunite with the Doctor.
Mm. Yeah, it's basically, he does it on the technicality, doesn't he? Convincing the system that she must be guilty of something.
Oh, yeah, and she has to damage the visitor sign or something to allow the system to let her in. Yeah.
So as they head further into the prison, Clara notices that the Doctor's hobbling because he's kind of broken his toe a short while before on one of the custodians. And Clara shows him a newspaper from the homeworld and saying it's in political chaos. It's nice to think that there are newspapers in the future. And the governor says that they'll always find somebody new to take over the homeworld because there's always someone who's kind of weak enough to agree to take it on. And that was why that he's done a better job at being governor than he ever did when he was president of Homeworld. Which is a great what?
Big revelation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you expecting that? Because I wasn't.
That was a kind of a big twist, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get some background as to what happened during the governor's presidency, and this is the part where it hits very close to home. So
yes,
there's a planet called Birdling, where there was a disease or an outbreak, and there were vaccines available which would prevent this outbreak, but after a while there was this anti-vax movement which was being stoked by the media.
It was hungry for ratings, yeah.
Yeah, and a medical person who was really into pseudoscience and such, and as a result people stop vaccinating their children, and the disease breaks out. And all of this is happening while the president's opponents are trying to figure out different ways to suppress the vote. So at first it was this is an exciting romp in the future. And all of a sudden, reading this chapter, it was everything just like one of those Hitchcock style zooms. So it's and
oh, dear.
I had to double check the publication date too, because everything that James Goss was saying about anti-vaxxers and supply chain disruptions and pandemics, it's just extraordinarily timely and prescient. And not to mention how the president was ousted by a small number of votes, and the both sidisms of the media and presenting quack pseudoscience alongside real facts to maintain the illusion of being fair and balanced, and to top it all off, election fraud and a homeworld first movement. Which, reading all of these and wait, this is 2 years before the 2016 election, and it was just wow. It was really hit home.
Yeah, because you would have had the birther movement would have been in swing then, so that was getting news coverage over here,
and the anti-vaxxers.
Yes, yeah. However, James Goss has just hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah,
very uncomfortably, but he has. Yes.
Yeah. So getting all of those, details, we learned that the president's wife went to this colony planet to try and help the outbreak there, and she ultimately got sick and was put into quarantine where she died. The anti-vax movement spreads to other planets in the colony systems, and the president consults his advisor, Marianne, who we meet earlier. She's the woman in the wheelchair, and she tells him to arrange for some extra ballot boxes to appear and to correct any abnormalities. So, he's doing that, and to bolster his campaign's tough on law and order stance, he orders for this asteroid prison to be built. And so he wins re-election, but allegations of cheating start to surface. So he hires a law professor, Lafcadio, another inmate to advise him, but he ultimately loses office. So what had happened was the governor's opponents, who are now in power, they sped up the construction of the prison and using a lot of shoddy workmanship, and that's where you get all of the system failures. And they decide to put in most of the overthrown government in there as prisoners, and then they place all of the prisoners' families, political prisoners, in level 7. And to kind of make his humiliation complete, the former president was made governor and essentially exiled to this rock in space. Yeah, so just some shocking revelations.
Yes.
And the governor never knew who started the plague, which led to his wife's death, until that person was sent to the prison, and that person was revealed to be the doctor. So that's what the shocking revelations were in the doctor's record that he read, was that somehow the doctor was responsible for this outbreak.
There's an explanation that's given. I must say, I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, I think the doctor was framed. Like, I think the doctor and Clara were trying to help some of the opposition in overthrowing the government, because the newspaper that Clara holds kind of shows that things have taken even more of a turn for the worse. So the new homeworld government was very unpopular and vulnerable. The doctor was identified and captured and sent to the prison. And I don't know if that was intentional on the doctor's part, like if he was trying to get to the bottom of this, or if that part was a coincidence. I don't think that's ever explained.
One thing as well we've not actually mentioned is that Clara, on some of her earlier visits, we realise that they're happening out of sequence.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I just realised that we'd kind of like left you hanging with, there'll be an explanation as to why Clara's cold at that first encounter, but we haven't actually given it. Yeah, so Clara comes along for what is her first visit to her, and the governor is quite rude with her, and then suddenly we realise, hang on. And so the governor gives her all manner of tips to sort of basically say, get your class to kind of like do signs. And because the governor has a bit of a soft spot for Clara. Not quite in the way that the Sixth Doctor's opponents had for Perry, but it is a little bit kind of like, okay, it's a crush bordering on an infatuation, I would say, but...
Yeah, I think he's intrigued by her and trying to unravel the mystery of how she's connected to the Doctor and how she's able to show up there without any spaceship. So, she's the impossible girl still. I feel like some of that's kind of carried over, from Series 7 into this.
And he's also a bit jealous of her references to Danny as well.
That's true,
So, yeah.
So in the intervening years, so as the new homeworld's, becoming more unpopular and vulnerable, they decided that the time had come to eliminate the political prisoners that are all on this asteroid, because otherwise, they represent a threat as like a credible alternative to their government. So they need to be eliminated. And the Doctor thinks that, well, some of the Guardians are in on it. They don't know that the government plans to kill all the guards as well.
So they go off to the control station, the Doctor and chums, and discover that it's been stripped bare. So they then head to the Transnet booth, which is the way that you communicate with Homeworld. And they discover Bentley barricaded inside, and she's clearly furious about something. And Clara tries to reason with Bentley, explaining to her that Homeworld has left her out to dry. And eventually Bentley reluctantly agrees to help round up any more survivors. And not long after, Clara and Bentley leave the control station, and then the Doctor and the Governor hear ominous screams. And not seeing any signs of the two women, the Doctor consults the remaining displays in the control station, and realising that he needs to scan inside the prison, the Doctor orders the Governor to find this thing called a network hub controller that was on the Doctor's anti-grav trolley of useful stuff. And the Governor goes off into the main bit of the prison. Heading down the stairs, they start to quake because the defence array is bombarding the asteroid's surface. And his little comms device suddenly springs to life, and he can hear Bentley and Clara over the radio and can't quite figure out where they are. And Clara then later calls him back to say that they were captured by the creature and to hurry. And she's also holding back details on what the creature actually is. And the governor then finds the trolley, and it's too damaged to move, so he scoops up as many items as he can. And back in the control station, the doctor finds one of them as being the network hub controller. And so he plugs this in, and the system starts scanning the station. And they realise that there's this kind of odd space in level 6. And the Doctor does a lot of cross-referencing of data logs and notices that the power outages tally with when prisoners are moved to level 6. And so he says that the governor has been unwittingly feeding something for quite some time, and that something is now hungry, and also it's got Clara.
Ooh. So we're learning more about what's happening and why some of the prisoners were disappearing. And so the doctor and the governor head to the medical bay of the asteroid, where they encounter a former mercenary named Abessi, and that mercenary's guarding the unconscious Marianne. And Marianne's, she was the prisoner in the wheelchair, and the doctor telepathically communicates with her because she's unconscious, and gets consent from her to take her out of the medical bay so that she can accompany them. And he learns a little bit more about the situation and Marianne's backstory as part of that linkage. And they leave the medical bay accompanied by Abessi, who now has a gun with her. And then not long after that, they're confronted by a group of the automated custodian guards. And the governor deliberately steps between the group and the custodian and tries to persuade them to stand down. But the custodians now regard all life forms as prisoners and therefore eligible to be terminated. And the governor cites a medical evacuation protocol, which convinces the custodians to accompany them to a secure area in level 6. One of the custodians notices the doctor's hobbling a little bit because of the doctor's broken toe. So to improve the group's speed, the custodian decides to shoot the doctor in the foot, immobilizing him, and then carrying him the rest of the way to the lifts. It was kind of felt bad for the doctor there.
Yes.
And then as the lift starts to descend, the custodians stop it just after level 6, so in between level 6 and what was level 7, and the door opens into a very strange space.
Yeah, so this ragtag bunch of prisoners and custodians find themselves in this cube space, which has been hewn out of the rock, and the custodians form this kind of guard of honour for the Doctor and company. And as they walk through, it becomes apparent that the room is decorated with piles of prisoner body parts. And this is the blood cell from which the book gets its title. And it looks as if the custodians have been trying to figure out how humans work. It's all wonderfully grotesque, isn't it? So, also in the room are Bentley and Clara, and both of them are strapped to benches. And next to them is the creature. So we finally get a proper look at the creature, and it's basically a huge custodian built up from other custodians. And some of the sheeting is kind of still on it, and the sheeting is looking like a butcher's apron. And the Doctor wonders out loud what he should call this kind of made custodian. And the custodian that's carrying the Doctor says that he should call it the judge. And he tries to get the judge involved in the conversation because the judge can't speak. It grabs Bentley and assimilates it into its body and uses her to talk, much to the Doctor's horror.
Yeah, that was probably not the reaction I was going for, but it reminded me of a scene in Superman 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where the woman Vera gets assimilated in a similar sort of way.
Yeah.
And the blood cell, it's almost like an abattoir, really. It's just really horrific. Fortunately, it wasn't described in any detail.
No.
If this were a new adventure, I'm sure we'd have 2 or 3 pages of details describing it.
Yeah.
But fortunately, that was glossed over a little bit, except for a necklace of body parts hanging from the judge.
Early on, I was thinking, well, this could work on TV with kind of like a cheap... Yeah, because you wouldn't necessarily need a huge budget because you'd have quite a lot of the same sets and everything. But then when it gets to this bit, here, you as a reader can decide how gory this is.
Yeah. So the judge was focusing on trying to identify the cause of the plague, and under the law, the prisoners don't need to give their consent. So the judge was testing a theory that a person's sins are somehow the cause of an illness. So it's opening up different prisoners looking for their sins.
Where it gets this idea from, it's not really explained, is it?
Yeah. The judge focuses its attentions on Clara as a comparison because she's from outside the prison system. So the judge wants to start dissecting Clara next. But the governor volunteers himself instead. But the judge's protocols prohibit him from working on authority figures. And then the doctor suggests that the judge uses Marianne instead, which is
an interesting twist.
A bit horrific. And yes. I mean, to be fair, like Marianne's near death in a coma, and she's probably not going to make it anyway. But I think this is kind of similar to how there was the scene very early on in the 12th Doctor's era in Into the Dalek, where they're inside the Dalek and the Doctor has to sacrifice one of the soldiers to find out how something works. So he says, hey, why don't you go in there or something, and orchestrates that person's demise. And I feel some of that coming through here too.
Yeah.
With the Doctor suggesting that he use her in that way. Marianne is a fascinating subject for the judge because she's effectively a hybrid because her wheelchair was made out of a custodian. So when the judge looks at her, he sees this kind of amalgamation of the two, machine and human, similar to what he's like, now that he's absorbed Bentley. And it's suggested by the judge that Marianne might be this perfect balance between machine and man. And this spurs a furious Marianne into consciousness because I think she's somewhat aware of her surroundings because of her psychic connection with the Doctor. So she confronts the judge with such a rage that the judge backs off. And Marianne, in her former life, was the chief of staff, the governor's right hand, back when she was helping with his administration. Abisi reaches for her gun and realizes that the power pack was removed from it. And before anyone can stop her, Marianne reaches the judge and attaches the power cell to it and detonates it, which destroys both her and the judge.
Yeah.
A fiery explosion.
Yeah. With all the custodians deactivated, the Doctor and friends work on restoring power to the various systems. And so once that's over and done with, they all sit down to have by all accounts, delicious lasagna. And the Doctor tells the governor that he's hearing that the people on Homeworld want him to become president again. The governor isn't sure that he deserves to become president. And the Doctor says he's not convinced either. But the choice is the governor's. And so the governor chooses to write his account of what happened at the prison to help him decide what to do next. And there the story ends. So, we have an explanation as to why we have the narrative. Quite why he holds back for some narrative reveals, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, hey-ho.
Yeah, and it ends on that kind of slightly unresolved note where, does the warden go back to being president or does he get dropped off somewhere else? And I love the line from the Doctor, as they're finishing up their lasagna. The Doctor says, time for dessert. And he turns to the governor and he says, you're just desserts. Which you can totally see Capaldi doing.
Yeah. So, what do you make of this?
I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a brisk, fun read and it kept me engaged, and there were some great 12th Doctor moments in it, and I feel like it could have really fit seamlessly into that era. And I couldn't tell if James Goss was channeling Capaldi from some of his other work, or if he had all that access to early Series 8, because he just does a really good job. What did you think?
I really enjoyed this. I think one thing I would say is it's a shame that it's resolved by a sacrifice. And even then it's not necessarily entirely clear how much of a willing, because Marianne is slightly manipulated into the situation as well. So that is one thing where I just kind of go, I wish that we'd found another way rather than having a disabled character sacrifice themselves to resolve all of this. But I did greatly enjoy this. I must say, as a young viewer, I loved Paradise Towers. And this is kind of like Paradise Towers, but possibly kind of done with with a production team all kind of firing on the same cylinder. yeah, I adored it. And there's so many wonderful little great quotes that you can from it throughout. I mean, there's one point early on where the governor says there are questions that no one can answer. We do what we do and we can live with ourselves somehow. That's the only answer anyone can ever give to those questions. And and the governor also at one point says, you could get away with murder here. And the doctor says, probably not the best thing to say in a prison. And the doctor also says, I'm always asked what the end of the universe will be like. It'll be a room full of people fighting politely over the last chocolate biscuit as they squeeze in one final meeting about how terribly dark it's getting.
Oh. Yeah, that was a great line. Just kind of I think that whole chapter, I call it like the close to home chapter. It was just like
Yeah, and there's also another thing that says you can always tell a lot about a building by being in its lift. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. I've never thought of it, but yeah, it is kind of true. There are so many wonderful quotable bits, and I think it's a shame that this book doesn't seem to be championed, because I think sometimes you do hear people sort of say, the modern series books aren't as good, and we've encountered a few now where it's like, you should read this, and I think this is definitely one of the ones that I should thrust into the hands of anyone who bemoans the fact that the New Adventures or the Eighth Doctor Adventures aren't around anymore. It's like, no, read this. But maybe wait a couple of years. Don't read it in 2020.
It was all going along so swimmingly until I was like,
this is all happening now.
Yeah, I mean, James Goss, he's a really good writer, and he really makes you like or empathize with really minor characters almost immediately, which is a strength, I think. And going into it, I was a little bit nervous about this month's selection. I was kind of, bracing myself for something dark and dreary and like a miserable sort of prison drama, a la, the HBO series Oz or something. And what I got was just something really quite different, and, squeezing some magic out of some of those smaller, more mundane scenes, like, the victory of turning the library shelves into canteen furniture. And it really makes me want to read some of his other work, like, Scratchman or Cricketman as well.
Yeah. It's full of these small triumphs. And I think for many people at the moment, life is really about that, isn't it? I mean, I think for a lot of people anyway it is, but certainly in this exciting dystopian present, it does speak to us, doesn't it?
So how would you score this one?
I don't know, rate this. I'm going to give this an 8. I think I think I would have possibly gone a little bit higher, but I was just like, I wish that maybe the ending had been a little different. I would have loved to have given it a 9, but I just like, no, it's an 8. It's an 8. But it's a very strong 8, and and I think even if you've listened to us talking about this and you haven't read the book, there are so many great little things in here. So even though some of the twists are coming, still I would urge you to kind of go ahead and read it. So how about you?
I wrote down an 8 as well. So I think we're on the same page with this one, and I would consider it a strong 8, like a B+ sort of scale for me. It was really good. And, the somewhat problematic element that you pointed out about the sacrifice of the disabled character to save the rest of the folks, that stuck out for me a little bit. I did like some of the twist or the revelation with the governor and, the hidden floor. Those were great. And I think the doctor first noticed that there might have been like a hidden floor because he was counting the steps in the stairwell, in between the floors and noting that something was off there. It kind of had that weird being John Malkovich feel where you have a hidden floor in the building. I guess maybe some additional twists or surprise elements might have elevated the score a little bit further for me too, but some of that would be difficult to do when you have like a first person narration, because like, for example, I would have loved to have seen some scenes with Clara with her school class and how she's convincing them to write, free doctor placards and stuff, but you couldn't get that, because, the governor wouldn't have awareness into those scenes. Yeah, just something like that to maybe balance it and have some more scenes set outside the prison itself. But at the same time, I understand why he didn't take that approach, right? Because it lends itself to that claustrophobic feel if you're stuck there with them and you can never leave too. So
But I mean, you can infer things of the life beyond. I mean, because you do get enough references to Danny, to Class 2B, so you do get, I think, a great sense of life outside of this prison as well. It's so good, and the twist with the president, it's the kind of thing that Justin Richards does, and so it's interesting to see somebody else going down that route of a complete rug pull. Because like when I think of that in Doctor Who written fiction, I think of Justin Richards. And it's just so funny as well. There are, obviously dark humour. I mean, and if the 12th Doctor, particularly early on 12th Doctor, is not your bag, then maybe, maybe you might not enjoy this one so much. But it is just laugh out loud, at times. And as you say, I can just picture Capaldi.
I'm sorry, I'm chuckling at because it's such a dark book, but
it is.
If someone pulled that quote out, like on the back cover, the all new Doctor Who book club says, "Laugh out loud, fun."
Yes. But
it does have the humor. It does. Yeah, this is really good, and with the superficial similarities of the Doctor being trapped on a prison asteroid, between this and Shada. I feel like Revolution of the Daleks has a high bar to meet, later this winter.
Yes, yeah. Well, rumour has it it's going to be the Christmas Day thing, because the BBC won't be able to film much else.
Right.
So, yeah. I remember when that was filmed last year, I did kind of think, gosh, that's a bit crazy, isn't it? Kind of filming it a year and 2 months ahead of when it's going to be broadcast. But now it seems very, very wise.
Yeah, good to have that in the hopper. So.
Yes, yeah, right.
Well, so that's the blood cell.
Yes, there's a blood cell. Shall we move on and do feedback?
Yeah, let's do that.
Listen.
All right, so listener feedback. You can contact us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. Doesn't look like we've got any new emails for this month, but yeah, please do send us an email with your thoughts on this story or any of our other stories that we've covered on the show. And we'd be happy to read those out over the air. Mm-hmm. Chris, anything on the Facebook side?
So a few likes on the page, but we got a message from James Askham Haig, who he was a little bit late to the party, but wanted to drop us a message in reaction to the Human Nature episode we did the other month, and he said he's a sucker for the new adventures, and he's reading Happy Endings at the moment. So he's been working through them since 2017. So he's nearly there, and we know how hard it can be to squeeze in a Doctor Who book a month. So I think he says he's going slow. I think you're doing good. I think you're doing really good. Yeah.
And don't worry about being late to the party. I just got a text the other day from Jason Tucker, who's the head of Console Room, and he's working his way through the podcasts, and he started texting me about something, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, you said it in episode 6. Well, I don't recall what I was talking about, but I appreciate the...
Yeah, I can't remember which book we did in episode 6.
I think it was for Wheel of Ice or the Mark Gatiss one.
But yes, and he says that he's thrilled that we've shown love to the Virgin books, because he honestly feels that they're an important part of the show's history. I think that's true. I mean, I think to a large part, the new series would be very different if it had happened at all. The Bond series without the new adventures, and he regards them as canon in his head, and he doesn't see why the events of Human Nature can't coexist with a 10th Doctor's version of the same story, because we know that the Doctor's life is never a straight line, and he thinks canon's up to the individual, and that's one of the beauties of the show. And he looks forward to more Virgin stuff in the future, and very sweetly says the show is an absolute pleasure for the commute to and from work. Yeah, so thank you for those lovely notes. So I don't know whether we're doing a Virgin book next, but Matt will be shortly telling us. Yeah.
Signs point to yes.
Oh, okay. Question mark. Interesting. Okay. Right.
So on the Twitter side, we've heard from author Graham Burke of the Reality Bomb podcast, who said it was very kind of us to ask him to do the dramatic reading last month. Mm-hmm. And he said it was a little bizarre and quite a lot of fun to go back to a Doctor Who short story he wrote 21 years ago and reread it out loud. He's quite proud of the turnabout as fair play as a story, and I think we agree it was one of the highlights of that anthology.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he also wrote 2 other short stories, both for the Big Finish Short Trips collections, one in Steel Skies from 2003 and the other in the Transmissions volume from '08. And he said he's quite proud of the story in Steel Skies, and it does something Doctor Who hadn't done at the time, which is true. I've since gone back and read it. It's quite good, and there's some great moments in it. So, yeah, do look out for his other short stories, and you can catch them, as we said, on Reality Bomb as well.
Yeah.
And thanks again, Graham, for doing the reading last month.
Yeah, I've not read any of the Big Finish short trips, so yeah, maybe I might try and track some of those down.
We do one for a podcast.
Yes.
In the future. Just make sure you have it in hand first, because those quite rare to come by.
Yes, yeah.
So speaking of our next selection, we're at that point in terms of what we're going to be reading for next month. And I was kind of torn between 2 different books. Both featured the Third Doctor.
Ooh.
And both by authors we haven't read on this version of the show yet.
Okay.
Of the Third Doctor's, kind of 3 main companions, I'm probably most wanting more content featuring Liz Shaw.
Oh.
Because we only got the 4 stories with her.
Okay.
So I decided to go with A Missing Adventure. Mm-hmm. And for October, we'll be reading The Eye of the Giant by Christopher Bullis.
Okay. Interesting.
First published in 1996, and I hear it's kind of a pastiche or homage to the King Kong films. So,
Okay.
kind of an exciting
Cool.
adventure romp for us for
Yeah.
October.
Because he kicked off the Missing Adventures range, didn't he? With the one in which the First Doctor finds himself in some kind of medieval world.
I think Goth Opera was the first.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay,
So
Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think he wrote too.
Sorcerer's Apprentice, early on. You are right.
I think that was the first book club book. That might be.
Yes. Yeah, that might be why I was thinking first. But yeah, but it was early on in the range, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only read one Bullis. Oh no, I've read 2. I was wondering whether you were going to say there's a Paul Leonard one, isn't there? Paul Leonard one with Joe and Mike.
Dancing the Code.
No. I can't remember. Was it Speed of? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward. I too have a great soft spot for Liz Shaw, so I think it'll be good to be spending more time with her. So hopefully it's not a companion light story. But
the other one I had considered was Harvest of Time, which is a more recent book, but it was like a 400-page kind of more hard science
right.
book. It was like, I'll give Chris a break.
Yeah, let's give him something slightly lighter. Yeah. And hopefully there won't be any accidental references to life as we know it in 2020.
We'll find out.
Yes. If somebody starts talking about electoral sort of shenanigans and pandemics, like, oh no. And we did go through a while in the early days of this version of the show of us accidentally going for stuff that turned out to be relevant to the news.
Well, unless there's a island of gigantic monsters to be discovered sometime in the next month, I think
it's 2020. Anything seems to be possible.
Anything's possible.
But yeah, well, at this rate, I messaged you during the week when Daleks was trending. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I think it's about time that the Daleks would start invading.
Dalek Invasion Earth 2020 AD.
Yes.
Well, on that note, until next month, fingers crossed.
Yes.
This has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Yeah, I was looking at the audiobook for the Harvest of Time, the hard science one, and the running time is 12 hours.
Whoa.
So
I
was like, oh, we'll
we'll
maybe
pass.
save that for another. Funnily enough, though, that one did get, so, it came out in 2013 during the anniversary year, and there was a lot of fiction that year, and it topped Doctor Who Magazine's poll as being the best piece of fiction to be released during the anniversary year. So it's gotten really good scores and stuff.
Yeah.
So we may want to consider it
Okay.
in the future, but I was just kind of bandwidth wise, I was like, I don't know if I can handle that right now.
No, I don't know if I can. A fire engine has just gone past. Usually when a fire engine goes past, it's normally accompanied by 6 others, because there is a tower block at the end of the side road that we are on. So just to warn you, it may suddenly get rather noisy.
Okay.
Hopefully not.
My neighbor mowed her lawn yesterday, so I was very happy about
That's good.
that
That's good.
yesterday
That's
afternoon.
good.
So this brings us to the dramatic reading for the month. Let's lost my train of thought. I haven't actually listened to the audiobook at all yet. I read this entire thing. So
Okay.